It's puck time, guys, for Monday, November the 11th. It is Remembrance Day up here in Canada, so it's only fitting that we got two Canadians on today's show. The other one is currently stuck in Vegas, the Prez, who should be back tomorrow hosting this. I know all you guys in the comment section are looking forward to the Prez coming back or not, but he'll be back. He had a good time in Vegas. Recorded a ton of videos. He won a little bit of money playing poker, and hopefully he'll be in a good mood come Tuesday, unless, of course, his flight is canceled. And in that case, you'll see me here tomorrow. It's a shortened version of Puck Time today. We've got Andrew Mcinnis out in Halifax. Any snow out there, Andrew?
It's actually a really nice day today. So I think that you were telling me earlier you're getting some snow today. So usually whatever you get, I get the same thing, maybe like a day or two after. So it's a nice day out today. So hopefully it stays.
Yeah, it's now here. It's noon here, and they're literally calling for a major snowstorm probably within the next 3 hours or so. So once I wrap up this show, and I'm doing a stoppage time after this, a soccer show for the Euro 2020s with Nick Borman from Sports Memo as well too. After that, I'll see if I can pick up the wife a little early. Otherwise, I may stick her in an Uber to get home instead of picking her up. Weekend. Okay, I want to talk about the weekend first before we get into it, because it's a short card tonight. Just a couple games on tap, but a few upsets. I think on Friday's show we talked about how I was passing on the Friday card, and mainly because I didn't want to lay a price too big a price with the Bruins. Detroit has been horrible of late. Not just late, but probably the last couple of weeks. But they strung sooner or later. I think I mentioned in the comments that sooner or later they're going to string a couple wins together, and they did. They beat the Bruins and then followed it up with a big win over the Vegas Golden Knights. So they've gone from losing 8 or 9 in a row to a couple wins in a row. And they're going to hit the road soon. They hit the road tomorrow, so we'll talk about that. But some other upsets, the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's probably a good thing that the president is in here, because he would be moaning and complaining. But obviously, lose one to the Flyers, lose one to the Hawks last night. Hutchinson did not look good last night. I think we have a serious problem with the goaltending in Toronto. Not as far as Frederik Andersen is, because he stood on his head, continues to play well. They need a backup goalie in there and need one quick. What do you think?
It's tough. It's tough to be a Leafs fan right now. Good thing I'm not one. But it's the thing is I really sound like a broken record saying this, Carmine, but it's the same thing that I've been saying for years now, and a lot of people preach about them, is that they are so reliant on their top key players. You just can't only rely on them. And I get it. People are gonna blame Hutchinson right now, but it's still a defensive issue. It's the forwards not willing to back check. You can't put all the blame on the defenders. We saw it happen all the time in the playoffs to Jake Gardiner and all kinds of other people. The blame has to go on the forwards for not back checking sometimes. A lot of the goals that get scored against them, they're not really like nice setup goals. It's more so odd man rush type goals, which means someone is not tracking back and picking somebody up. And you look at Mitch, the average Leafs fan is going to complain about injuries. You saw Tavares go down. You saw Mitch Marner go down now. But you have to be able to have that next man up mentality. You look at a team like the Bruins that always have the Leafs number. Sure, they have that top line card, but when it's not there, that third line and second line is there to help out as well. So, that's how I feel about the Leafs. I think they'll string it around. A little bit of adversity probably isn't a bad thing for them. I wanted to say the Oilers, man. Best Canadian team going right now. They beat the Devils in really strong fashion on Friday, 4-0. They're rolling right now. And I also had to say as well, the Capitals. They're a team that every single night right now, they're scoring 4 or 5 goals minimum. They're putting on a show. So hopefully that's a decent segue. But I've really been impressed with them.
Yeah, and I talked about, and I think I talked about it in the previous, I think it was a Thursday show, or Dave Koken was on, and we talked about that Islanders Pittsburgh game where I talked a couple of weeks previous about the Islanders having a favorable schedule looking ahead the next couple of weeks, and they were a team that could go on a streak, and you better jump on them early instead of jumping on them in game 7 or 8 and wondering why you waited so long to get on the streak. And they won 10 in a row. But a lot of money came in on on the Penguins the morning of that game against the Islanders in New York. And the Penguins ended up winning that game, of course, coming back from 2 or 3 down, I believe it is, to win that game. But, the Islanders got back right back on track again and, won their next one out, beating the Florida Panthers. And when you look at teams on streaks, Washington Capitals, who are playing tonight, you don't jump on a streak just because a team is a streak. Look at their schedule, look at where they've come from, where they're going, and sometimes listen to what we're talking here. As far as we do a lot of research for everyone out there, whether it's Dave Koken, yourself, myself, whether it's the Prez, whether it's Alex, we're doing a lot of research. So we're not just looking at the morning schedule and saying, okay, I like this team here. I talked about teams like, and I understand, I'm going to use one of your phrases here, the star-riddled Vancouver Canucks. Yes, they are a very good team, but they're also a team that, in looking at their schedule, they looked susceptible to going into what could be a long losing streak. Now, by long losing streak, it doesn't mean they're going to lose 10 in a row, but they could easily drop 8 of 10. They're in one now. I talked about the Buffalo Sabres, and I'm a Sabres fan, but I know this team does not have 3 lines. Forget 4 lines. They don't have 3 lines. So the way they played to start the season is the same as the way they played last year to start the season, where on November 30th, they were first place in the league with 50 plus points, I think it is, and then went on to drop 13. I think they only won 13 of the remaining games. They went like 13, 36, and 4, I think it was. They're struggling right now. They can't score. They're moving Jeff Skinner around. They don't know where they're moving from the first line to the third line to the second line. It's a team that they just don't have 4 lines you can roll out. So with all the energy they have, at some point it catches up with them, and they're mired in a streak now. And they've gone they were first in the Eastern Conference with 20 points a week and a half ago. They are now 9th in the East with 20 points. So that's got to tell you something. All right. Listen, we're going to jump to Washington. We're going to segue into that game. Caps at home, lane 180. The Coyotes plus 160. The total in this game is 6.5 right now. And, we talked about the Coyotes and how they had a pretty good, that Canadian Western road trip. They were playing well, but they come home and they drop 2 straight. Columbus and Minnesota, 2 games you would expect them to win, and they didn't. 3-2 and 4-3. I'm going to throw this to you, Andrew. Thoughts on tonight's game?
Yeah, I think, you and I were talking about this Capitals team a few minutes ago, and when you look at them in their past 6 games, Carm, they've scored at least 4 goals. So ultimately, whenever you look at the Arizona Coyotes right now, it's part of you or part of me, you want to look at how they've improved over the past even year or maybe 2 years. The different type of team that they are now. They've added a few key pieces. They've got some younger guys that are more experienced now. I think Phil Kessel has been a huge addition to that team, not only scoring-wise, but just leadership and just passing, different things that he does that goes unnoticed. A lot of times I think you see that when a player goes from a team like Pittsburgh with guys like Crosby and Malkin, so many star players, then you go on to another team and you're kind of the guy. You're a little more the leader, at least more of the experienced kind of guy. But I just don't think this Arizona team is ready to be able to beat the great teams like Washington. And, look at this number. I think it's exactly where it should be. We're looking at around a minus 170 range. Capitals playing at home here. And the thing is, with this Washington team is they're not just looking at their schedule. I mean, you talk about handicapping a schedule. They're not just beating up on light teams right now. They're beating Vegas. They're beating Florida. They're beating Calgary. They're beating Buffalo. They're beating Toronto. They went through a decent little patch there, Carm, where they played some teams where they might have had some trouble with, but they didn't. They didn't have any trouble with it at all. They're averaging well over 4 goals a game right now, and that's a team that does have a few lines that can score. So I'm going to go ahead here and grab the Washington Capitals in regulation. You can get that at minus 107. So not really comfortable as much with the minus 170, obviously. So I'm going to go down with the minus 107. No real totals lean, to be honest with you, because something tells me, Arizona has been trending under big time, especially against Eastern Conference opponents. But I don't want to step in front of Washington right now as well with how much they're scoring. So I'm just going to go ahead and ride the better team at home.
Yeah, no, and I have to agree with you. And I wouldn't want to step in front of this Capitals team either. They've won nine of their past 10, actually 10 of their last 11, but picked up points in all 11 games. One of them was an OT loss to the Edmonton Oilers in Edmonton. And you've got Samsonov in net tonight, and he's what a start to the season. He's 5-1, 2.38 goals against average, .915 save percentage. If everything remains consistent, you've got to figure the Caps are going to score 3 to 4 goals tonight at the very least. I just think the Coyotes have been playing at a higher level than what the team. If you look over the course of what they're going to do over 82 games, I think they pretty much spiked. And when you spike playing sort of your best hockey and you don't win games, at some point you start to lose games and you start to lose a bunch of games. I don't think they're a bad team. I just think they're a team that may be a little run down over the next week or so. And like looking at their schedule, there are some tough spots in that schedule. I wouldn't mind laying the puck line here with the Caps. You're going to get 140 minus 1.5. You're going to get plus 140 on your money here. I wouldn't want to lay 170, 180. Those are tough numbers. Even if you think a team is going to win, you shouldn't be laying a high number juice just for the sheer fact that you've literally got to win 2 out of 3 times just to eke out a small profit long term. So, yeah.
And also looking at the backup situation, I think just to add to it, you were talking about the Leafs. It's outstanding for a team. And you saw the head coach and the coaching staff of the Vegas Golden Knights saying this the other night. You have to have a little bit of a 1-2 punch. And it seems to me that we always knew that the Capitals had a starting goaltender. But now to be able to have that backup, and like you said, a great start to the season for him as well, it's huge. Because you said the Leafs are struggling with it. Some great teams, they had that number 1 guy, but then when the number 2 guy goes in, and I do want to mention Alex B. Smith, because he does a chart each month. He updates it where he looks at the odd change for how much different it would be versus if it was the backup in or the starting goaltender in. And I want to point out a team like Boston because I've seen them play when Halak was in nets in person, and I've seen them play in person when it was Rask. And to be quite honest, Carm, it was pretty much just the same goalie in there, just 2 solid goaltenders. So it's important to have it. And I don't really handicap this one too much different, to be quite honest with you, right now in this Washington Capitals spot with Samsonov in nets versus Holtby.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. He's Andrew Mcinnis of Sports Memo. You can find him on Twitter at McInnis Picks. You can find me on Twitter at Carmine Bianco WT. I've got a promo on the board right now. You can get 7 days of either or both. Separately, Andrew and my NHL picks. You head over to Sports Memo for his, head over to WagerTalk.com for mine, punch in puck 49, get 7 days for $49. Andrew's on, actually, we're both on some very good runs, but you're 21-9, 70% plus 45 units. I'm on a 22-7 run, 76%, and I think it's plus 51 units. So we've both started on, we're going to battle from now to the end of the year, I'm pretty sure, in the NHL. So head over to WagerTalk or Sports Memo and pick up those promos. All right. Not the prettiest game of the night, of the two. Definitely not the prettiest game of the two. We've got the second of the back-to-back between these two teams, the Ottawa Senators heading over to the East Coast. They're probably on the East Coast anyways, but to face the Carolina Hurricanes, the now struggling Carolina Hurricane. The Canes have dropped 4 in a row. The line on this game tonight, if you want to step in front of a losing streak, which I don't want to do right now, the Canes are minus 245. Ottawa's plus 205. The total is 6, shaded to the over right now. The over's got a little bit of juice on it, minus 120. As I mentioned, these two teams Met on Saturday with Ottawa winning 4-1. That was the fourth straight loss for the Canes. Andrew, any thoughts here?
Yeah, Carm. I mean, a wise bald man once told me, "Don't step in front of a streak if it's losing," and I'm not going to step in front of this streak here because I want to go ahead and I've been doing this a lot recently. I'm going to grab the reverse puck line, the plus 1.5 at minus $1.19 with the Ottawa Senators. I mean, based off the performance that we saw in that first half of their game, I mean, 4-1, Carm. They win 4-1, and all of a sudden we're going to go ahead now and see a number in the minus 200, minus 225 range. What is going to change from this day to the next? And that's really what you have to ask yourself. And if you at home think that you're going to see a brand new Carolina Hurricanes team, and they all of a sudden had some great rest over the past couple of days, and they're brand new players, then you can go ahead and grab Carolina minus 225. I'm going to go ahead and grab the team that looked way better, that people love to crap on, that still has some skill on their team, and Carolina could win this game 3-2, and I'm Ottawa Senators plus a goal and a half. Minus $1.20 is my play on this one.
All right, sounds good. I would. I think the trend now is we're seeing when you're looking at like some first period lines. The trend now is we're seeing totals at 2 on any given night. If there's and I think we're going to see it tomorrow night with about 9 games. I think 9 or 10 games on tap is. You tend to see a few 1.5s and some 2s. Sports books last season really took it on the chin with these 1.5s. People were using them in parlays, playing them. They didn't mind paying the juice for them. In this game here, the total is you can probably find them at 1.5 with some high juice, but the total I'm seeing right now online is 2 for the first period, plus 130 on the over, minus 150 on the under. I think, although the first game was 4-1, I think we see some goals in this game. I would tend to look at possibly the over in this game, over 6. But and I know some guys always ask us for some plays, some parlays. If you want to take a first period parlay, I would take the Washington Capitals laying half a goal plus 145, but that means they have to have the lead at the end of the first, and the over 2 plus 130. And that's going to get you plus 463. So literally 4.5 to 1 odds on your money. It's a bit of not a long shot parlay, but if you need some action on a 2-game night where neither one of the games is very attractive, that's probably the way to go.
Or you can throw on the 49ers as well as money line.
Yeah, it's interesting
different show.
Like the NFL football game yesterday. Talking about NFL, I'm not a big fan of anymore. Anyways, Sean McVay. We're not going to talk about NFL too much right now, but I had like a 6-1 day yesterday overall in all sports, whether it was soccer, hockey, and football. And my one loss was on the Rams and McVay. So I wasn't too thrilled with that. He kind of kiboshed what would have been a pretty damn good day for me. But that said, let's move on to a game for tomorrow. The New York Rangers, the suddenly warming up hot New York Rangers playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, hosting the Penguins. No idea yet on the goalies on this one, and I think that's because it's still too early. We'll see them, but have to say that Lundqvist has been standing on his head as of late. I know he allowed 6 yesterday again, in a 6-5 shootout with the Panthers. I expected that shootout. It was one of my plays yesterday in the NHL. I took the over 6.5 there, and it was pretty much a winner 2 or 3 minutes into the second period. But we're likely going to see the Rangers will probably go back to Georgiev. We'll probably see Matt Murray. For the Penguins. Any thoughts on this game? Looking 24 hours ahead?
Yeah, it's I actually enjoy doing these. I like that you sent that email last night, look ahead game. Whenever I've been involved in a New York Rangers game, I actually have barely this year at all been backing a side. It's always been a total under or over. And in this one, I look at the over. We're seeing, we're seeing some goals on both sides now. We're seeing Pittsburgh putting up some goals consistently. And we didn't really see much consistency out of this team at to start the year. They had some injuries. We all know about that. And even with their injuries, they were scoring. And then it slowed down a bit. Then they got some players back. It's picked up a little bit. And now it's consistent. About 3 or 4 goals, you can count on them every single game, Carm. And this New York team, I feel sorry for them a little bit. I'll be honest, very very Canadian of me, but I feel very sorry for them because they can still score 4 or 5 goals and they're still losing some games. Their defense is letting them down. You and I were talking off air about how Lundqvist had a pretty good night the other night, but the goaltending still hasn't been up to par for this New York team this year. In games where they should easily be winning, if you score 3 or 4 goals, I think you should give yourself a chance to win. And all of a sudden, New York is blowing leads in the second or third period. I would look over in this one. We're going to get either 6 or 6.5. And I would look over in this one on Tuesday night card.
Yeah, I have to believe you're going to see a 6.5 in this game. And if a 6 comes out in the overnight line, I'm jumping all over it because it's not going to last. Definitely 6.5. And I tend to agree. Yes, Lundqvist stood on his head against Carolina. They had 47 shots on net. And they're consistently allowing a ton of shots on net. You can't rely on your goalies night in, night out to stand on their heads. And if Pittsburgh has that many shots on net, this game is soaring over that total. We talked about the Pens, and yeah, they're starting because they're getting healthy now. And that's the thing that Dave and I had discussed on a previous show is prior to the game against the Islanders, they looked pretty good in losing to the Bruins with getting Malcolm back and Galchenyuk back. They've got scoring from that second line now, and they went into New York, won that game, came home, beat the Blackhawks, who are starting to string some wins here and there together themselves and score. So this Pittsburgh team is another team looking ahead that could be putting together a streak. It's at 2 games now. It could easily, looking at their schedule, it could easily turn into 6, 7, 8 games. So I'm going to look at that line. I'm going to look at that total, and I think I'm going to get a favorable price on the Penguins as well because of the fact it's in New York. So I think we'll get a good price there as well too. So it's something that I guess you guys will discuss on tomorrow's show. I don't think I'm on tomorrow unless, of course, the Prez gets snowed in and I've got to fill in for him again as well too. But yeah.
Then unfortunately, Marco will have to put him up. I'll have to stay with Marco.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. He's gonna have to stay somewhere, or maybe he could be like Tom Hanks in The Terminal, and he can just sleep in the terminal. They'll throw food at him or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure. A grumpy Prez is not a good Prez, but he should be coming back in a good mood given his poker windfall, and he's been running good in the NHL as well too. So at least as far as that goes, let's get him back behind the mic. For the guys that are watching this, please continue to comment. We try and get back to you. If you're asking us for any other promo codes for like half season or full season, we'll see what we can do for that. We enjoy it. We enjoy when you guys go at each other in the comment section as well too, because it's like 2 guys at a bar arguing over a game. If we all agreed on the same thing, we'd be a cult. So it's always good to disagree on anything. Again, Puck 49 for myself or for Andrew at the Sports Memo or WagerTalk at 7 days of NHL. There are some big cards coming up. So for the price of less than 2 daily cards, you're going to get 7 days of puck action. And you know that he's going to have cards up. I'm going to have stuff up as well. Andrew Mcinnis, Mcinnis Picks on Twitter, Carmine Bianco, WT on Twitter as well too. That's a wrap. Hey, good luck tonight, man.
See you, Carmine. You too.